Welcome to Leadership Unleashed, the show that will explore the multifaceted world of leadership through insightful interviews, thought-provoking discussions, and practical advice from leaders throughout Westchester County and beyond. I'm your host, Dr. Marsha Gordon, President and CEO of the Business Council of Westchester. Today we are honored to have with us a very special guest, Brandon Steiner, the founder and president of the Steiner Agency and CollectibleXchange. Thank you for joining us, Brandon, on Leadership Unleashed. We go back a little while, don't we?
Well, thank you. And, I just want to say that Westchester's been so good to me. I've had so much good luck up here, and as Westchester keeps growing, and it has been growing amazing, I just find myself, this is home now. I never thought a Brooklyn kid would call Westchester my home, but
you're talking to another Brooklyn kid, Right. So we get it. And, one of the reasons that Westchester is so great because we have wonderful sponsors and wonderful health care, like our sponsor today of Leadership Unleashed, Westchester Medical Center. They're the premier sponsor of the Leadership Unleashed podcast. So thank you to them also. Before we begin, Brandon, can you tell the audience a little bit about yourself and where you came from, and I think we're going to just weave all these questions into this conversation.
Well, first, I'm in Yonkers now. New Rochelle is such a big part. I feel like New Rochelle is my home, but now Yonkers is my home, and I never thought I'd be loving Yonkers. And obviously, I reside in Scarsdale. I'm a Brooklyn kid. I started, people know me from Steiner Sports, 35 years, built that company up, and you know me from the Yankees, and now it's CollectibleXchange. It's more of a company that helps people sell their stuff and players and teams. So I have partners all over the country helping them buy and sell. It's really a marketplace. I'm teamed up with some pretty big partners, some pretty big schools, leagues, teams. What's crazy, Marsha, is I have more stuff on CollectibleXchange than I ever had at Steiner.
That's amazing.
That's
scary.
Amazing. So it's not like I have 1,000 Derek Jeter balls like I used to. I may have 10 different Jeter balls, but only one of them. So there's such more of a diverse amount of stuff because all the people I've sold stuff to over the last 35 years, I'm reselling their stuff. People are getting older, they're downsizing, or they're tired of what they have. They want to trade in, trade up. A lot of people need authentication organizations, so CollectibleXchange does that. Still booking a lot of players, particularly up here in Westchester for companies that are growing or new companies. I'm always able to hook them up, still have all the athlete contacts. So it's been fun. What's crazy? I started this company the same way I started Steiner. Just for people out there that want to talk about leadership, I think it's just if you can get to the brilliance of things, which is the basics and the truth. I read my first book that I wrote 20 years ago, the Business Playbook, which I wrote for people who want to start a business. I reread it, and did the CollectibleXchange. I'm sitting in a small office to get started now. We've already gotten more offices, more warehouses, but same thing. I take out the garbage, I'm packing boxes. I do all the little things that I did when I started Steiner, and I think it does come down to the little things and connecting. And, same connection on social media, all the little things that help you build a brand instead of like, trying to do a quick fix or trying to build something real quick just because. I never think you should let whatever happened to you in the past dictate your future. So, start again. You know what the right thing to do is. Do it on purpose. And that's starting off nimble, helping people solve a problem. And that's kind of what we did. And I have no idea what I'm doing, but I'm just doing it anyway. And something like, I didn't know if this was going to work, but I was damn sure going to die trying. And I'm just so blessed that people have been coming to me with their collections and coming with all this different stuff, and we're now in our third warehouse. It's crazy.
Incredible. It's really incredible. When you think about entrepreneurs, and you are the ultimate entrepreneur, and you have the entrepreneurial mindset. So can we talk about that entrepreneurial mindset and leadership, especially when you have to take a little bit of a detour, right? And you did. And you did it so successfully and so gracefully.
Well, thank you for saying that. I think in the leadership category, one has to realize that sometimes when you're flat, a lot of people, why they get kind of stuck is they refuse to take a couple steps back.
And risks, right? What about taking risks? Let's talk about that too.
The unknown is, people will say it over and over again. I hate when people say this, but, don't be afraid to fail. I'm like, I'm afraid. Make no mistake. However, I'm not afraid to try. I think in school, they give out A's, B's, and C's. I'd like to see them give out T's for trying. I think trying is the whole thing, and not make this whole big ordeal about what you want to shape or what you want to maybe detour or pivot with your company. But we're trying something. The trying gives you the ability to fail. All right, you tried it. But if you have this whole big thing and this whole big forecast and then you fail, boy, it does take a lot away from your confidence. And confidence is king. So to me, trying is huge. Don't be afraid to try. Be afraid to fail. I mean, it's going to happen. But you realize that some of the failures, even though you don't get what you want, you will get the learning you need to probably get to a whole nother level. As tough as leaving Steiner in a hostile takeover and getting thrown out of there after 35 years, I didn't see it coming. I made plenty of money. It wasn't that. But you know something? It's probably the best thing that ever happened to me. Like I'm on a highway with no red lights, Marsha. I'm like, and that's how you have to view your business too. Like, stop with all the stop signs and the bumps in the road and the holes, the potholes that put you on the side of the road. Get into a mindset that you have a highway with no red lights, and what would you do?
Love that. Let's stop here because we need to go to our first break. You're listening to the BCW Podcast Network. This is Leadership Unleashed, and we will be right back.
A lot goes into planning a birthday. For my daughter Cameron, it started with a stem cell transplant to cure her sickle cell disease. Yes, cure. Westchester Medical Center Health Network uses every technology, technique, and talented specialist to conquer diseases that could otherwise rob a child of childhood, helping my daughter and thousands of others at Maria Ferrari Children's Hospital. Happy birthday, Cameron.
Happy birthday.
WMC Health, advancing care here.
Brandon Steiner is our guest today. I'm Marsha Gordon, and I'm president of the Business Council of Westchester. And I have read most of your books. I have this one sitting. I brought it in today to show you I have it, but I actually have it in my home office. You got to have balls. How a kid from Brooklyn started from scratch, bought Yankee Stadium, and created a sports empire. And you've taken a lot of other roads there. There are many other books sitting in front. So let's talk about the themes in your books and how they translate into effective leadership practices, or how effective leadership practices translated into your books.
Well, I'm just about to come out with my fourth book. I spent, it's Living with a Police Officer. I spent many weeks riding along with police cars in really bad neighborhoods and just all over the NYPD to try to understand what the gap is between policing and these communities. And that all these communities are facing problems with the police and safety, and there's some real deep poverty that's going on. So I think I captured it. It's going to be a really good book, much different than anything I've done. The business playbook I wrote for really beginners, they're all free on my website, by the way. If you go to CollectibleXchange, just go and type in Brandon Steiner, you'll get the book. But the business playbook was for people that are just getting started, graduating, how you get your brand started. What's great about my books, as I tell people, I'm half illiterate. I'm not the smartest guy you're going to meet, but everything is extremely executable. I call it very snackable content. You can digest this and put this in play. You got to have balls was everything my mother taught me. It's a play on words because I've sold millions and millions of balls. But my mother's favorite line was, you got to have balls. Be fearless. Be tenacious. Don't stop. Don't settle for success. Be extraordinary. Be the best that ever was at whatever you decide to do. Be missed when you're gone. And then living on purpose is, for people that are a little bit older that are listening, especially if you're getting into, when I say older, with all due respect, when you move into your 40s, what are you doing to prepare for your 50s and 60s so you can be vibrant, so you can have energy, so you can extend your career, and you don't spend all this time in doctor's offices? I think it's the best work I've ever done, besides the 2,500 blogs I've written on BrandonSteiner.com. And living on purpose, I get pages of letters from people that say thank you for the wake-up call. Because we all do a lot of preparation for our careers, for our marriages, but we don't think about what we're going to do when we get older. And we're all living a lot older. So I thought the book was relevant to write that.
It was a great book. It was a great book. It was meaningful. It was meaningful to me as well, and because we all have to think about that. And you've also, Brandon Steiner, you've had to interface with some of the biggest stars in sports. You've been fortunate to. You've built that. What strategies did you use to develop relationships and to earn their trust?
I think, in leadership, I think the most important thing in building trust with anybody, especially with people that are hard to get to, is figure out what the value proposition is. I mean, if you're not doing something for someone, I always think, WMI, what's most important? You got to do what's important. You got to understand what's important for the people that are most important and think about that first and foremost. Most people are thinking about what they can get. You meet a celebrity, you meet a big client, you immediately, cha-ching, ring in the cash register, what can I get? Instead of thinking about what you can give. And I think, that's been my key. Meeting the athletes, the first thing I think about is, and really thinking and learning about this particular athlete or player, what can I do to help them? The misunderstanding is that everyone needs help. The people that really, the great leaders and the people that really do well in life are the masters in getting help. There is nobody who's gotten more help than I have in building my career and doing some incredible things I'm able to do. I don't know if we'd have enough time if we did the show the rest of the day to thank people, including you, Marsha. Like this place, when you talk about your council, you help a lot of small businesses, but how many small businesses come to Westchester don't come to you for the help? Why wouldn't you? Right?
All businesses, that's right. Yeah. But what have you seen in the stars in sports? What are some of their leadership skills that have impressed you?
I think there's a couple things. First and foremost, you have to have a high level of curiosity and enthusiasm. Mm-hmm. You have to have a high rate of growth. I always tell my players, you got to be a rose, rate of self-effectiveness. If you're not getting better every day, there is some kid that's going to catch up to you. And that's what most teams are looking for. They're not only looking for the great ones, but they're looking for ones that potentially could be the best and greater. And if they see you working hard, which a lot of times fans don't really see that, colleges, professional teams, they want to see players that have a rate of growth that are getting better because maybe they could be the next superstar, the Juan Soto, the Aaron Judge. So I look for players that have incredible work ethics, high level of self-esteem, they're confident, they can take the hits, they can deal with the losses, and I think it's a good characteristic of being in business. Same thing.
Absolutely. You're listening to the BCW Podcast Network. This is Leadership Unleashed, and we will be right back.
This is the coming home you dream about.
But getting here was unimaginable.
At 25 weeks, I was hemorrhaging badly, losing amniotic fluid. Fortunately, I was taken to Westchester Medical Center, where they have the most advanced care in the Hudson Valley for high-risk pregnancies and premature babies. And because we were there, now we're here.
WMC Health, advancing care here.
Welcome back to the BCW Podcast Network. My guest today is Brandon Steiner, the founder and president of the Steiner Agency and CollectibleXchange. I'm Marsha Gordon. I'm president and CEO of the Business Council of Westchester. Brandon, you've become well known for your proficiency in marketing strategy and personal branding. You're also a professional speaker. And what advice would you give to entrepreneurs who are trying to do the same?
It's funny. When I was a kid growing up, I was a marketer since I'm 10 years old. My mom said, don't even bother going to school for marketing. You can go up there and teach it. But now, it's freaking hard. If you're in the marketing game and you're driving on a 2 or 3 lane highway, you're probably not going to make it. You have to cover so many areas. You have to be a Swiss Army knife. You've got to be able to do a multiple amount of things. It used to be, you got something on the evening news, maybe an article in the Times, boom. You were that was a home run. Now, you can get that and maybe nobody even saw it. And then you get some small video on TikTok that gets 5 million hits and it's a home run. So you have to be able to have, I would say it's not survival of the fittest, it's survival of the flexible. If you're going to be a great marketer, you got to be flexible. As I'm getting older, I'm not as comfortable with some of those apps and some of those different social profiles, I bring young kids in. They tutor me. They show me. They help me.
That's
I
the way
keep
to
some
do it.
college and high school kids right next to me to show me how TikTok works, to make sure that I'm doing videos that are dynamic, not just kind of old schoolish. And listen, my customer base is older too, so I still relate to those people. I'm still picking up. By the way, you know the app, the one app on your phone that's least used?
Which one?
The telephone. You can still pick up the phone. You can still take a pencil and a piece of paper for the young ones out there and write a note, and it's powerful. It doesn't mean it's the end all anymore, but you can still do those things. Just like you're going to put a post on Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn is a must. You still got to deal with the local papers. My wife's still watching the 11 o'clock news, yet my kid doesn't have a TV. So, I mean, you have to understand the diversity of marketing, and I think it's become one of the more complicated professions now if you really want to be a great marketer.
You know, talking about diversity, you've had the opportunity to speak to world-class organizations like the New York Yankees and Nike and Harvard Business School. How do you craft your message for such diverse audiences? And what do you hope your listeners who aim to be leaders and entrepreneurs walk away with?
Well, I think that, there's a couple of things I really focus in when I'm speaking, and particularly when I go to places like Harvard and some of the bigger companies, which is your first idea is not your best idea. And you got to have balls, meaning stop relying on what happened in the past. Don't let the past dictate your future. Think about the what else factor. And also, check your enthusiasm out with your people around you. If you're putting together a good team and you're a leader, it's one of the things I tell the kids, you don't have to be the smartest person in the room, but you should be the most curious and enthusiastic. Now, enthusiasm comes from the root word enthusios, and that means to be with God. So as you're growing as a business person, you must have faith. It's a huge part of having success is that, yes, you're going to work hard. Yes, you're going to prepare. Yes, you want to know everything about your business, but you have to have faith that you're putting together something that's going to work, that's going to be effective, that's going to make a difference, make an impact. So I talk a lot about that, and I think curiosity and enthusiasm are the cornerstones to having an entrepreneurial attitude in a business. And the last thing is you don't have to own and start a business to be an entrepreneur. You can go in some of the biggest companies, small companies. You can find your entrepreneur spirit in any size company. And I think a lot of, I don't know if you know this, but there's 22 million Generation Z kids in this country now. So we got to start paying attention to that.
We are paying attention
real.
to the Business Council of Westchester.
Right?
Absolutely.
It's real. But 90% of those kids think within the next period of time they're all going to own a business. That's delusional. You can own a business within the business. You can be entrepreneurial in a big business if your enthusiasm is high, your curiosity is high, and you're looking to take whatever it is you're doing and making it better.
Very, very, very important. Brandon, looking back on your incredible journey thus far, with a lot more to come, what do you consider your proudest achievement? And what's next for you and your companies and your life?
First of all, obviously, to be married 38 years to the love of my life, and we still get along pretty good. And having some kids that really we still love and get along with too is critical to my success anyway. Something like I just feel like when everything went down at Steiner, yeah, athletes called me to see what happened, and yeah, there was this and that. But what really was, I figured out was really the best success? I got hundreds and hundreds of texts, emails, letters, telling me how important what I did was for them, how much of an impact I had on their kids and them. I was a very hands-on CEO, and I still am. And it was nice to know that I had an impression and made an impact. And I feel like, not only starting a business like Steiner, but building an industry that now is taking shape and now is being followed by many.
You really did, Brandon. Let's pause here a minute. You built an industry.
Yeah, and it's growing.
And that's something that's really having an impact. It's having an impact because people enjoy your industry, and they get a lot of pleasure. But there's also many people have jobs, and many people have opportunities, and many communities that have changed, and people that have developed. And
I don't recommend it for those out there that are listening. If you're leading, you're starting a company, you don't have to be an inventor. This was definitely a much deeper task than I got myself into, and it was costly. But be an improver. You don't have to be an inventor. Take things that are out there. I think the greatest amount of entrepreneurism in the next 10 years will happen because there's so many new things, and they all most of them need improving, and that's why I'm very, very excited about Generation Z and some of the young kids, because there's so much improvement needed. Even though some of these ideas are incredible, the improvement we're going to see over the next 10 years will be even more incredible. And I feel like, inventing an industry and building this thing up, and there were some things I improved too. It's kind of, it's not always the easiest route. So if you're having a brand new idea that's never been done before, understand the task at hand. But being an improver is certainly something to be thinking about every day when you're leading your company.
Brandon, you've said a few words, say passion and enthusiasm and improvement and having balls and having guts and taking risks and not being afraid of failure. We're all a little afraid of failure, but learning from that. You have brought such important perspectives into leadership, into this podcast and into your listeners. And I follow you every day. I'm one of your multiple thousands of followers on LinkedIn and Instagram and Facebook, and look forward to for many, many years to come. You've changed my life and my perspective. And one thing you taught me is don't wake up in the morning and look at your phone right away.
Don't take your phone on date night either. But
Marsha,
thanks for everything you do too.
I'm still working on that one.
I love your passion to help small businesses in Westchester, because we need more small business. And if you're opening up a small business, good for you.
We
need
so
more
much.
of it.
Thank you.
Love your commitment to it. I've always been a fan of it, and would always look to try to help small businesses, because they are the cornerstone of this country. That's some of the greatest companies started off in a garage.
Yep.
I started off in a little office with $4,000 and paying rent for $400. So we all start off. Don't be afraid to start off small. Is my last message to the people listening. Small things lead to big things every time, right? Don't be afraid. You don't have to start off big.
Yep.
Start off small. And
Yep.
I'm so grateful to be here in Westchester, to have the kind of fans and customers around that have been supporting this new company that I'm running. Loving Yonkers. Shout out to Yonkers.
Great.
Thank you, Yonkers, for being such a great home for me now. But shout out to New Rochelle. I miss you. I love what they're doing in New Rochelle. It's growing like crazy, too.
And thank you, Brandon Steiner, for your commitment to Westchester County and to helping others. Thank you for joining us today. It was great to have you on as our guest. And thank you, once again, to our sponsor, Westchester Medical Center, and our listeners.